Before we dive into today's topic, I have to take a second to say thank you. We officially hit 4,000 subscribers.
Prime Field!
Alright, Prime Field family, let's set the table. Everybody wants to talk about the threes, AZ Fudd, Ali Zeeble, the highlights, the heat checks. But tonight, UConn's real superpower isn't the perimeter, it's something scarier, something you can't scheme away, because UConn has turned the paint into a lab, and every opponent is the next experiment. So here's the question before UConn plays Villanova on February 19th, 2026. If the Huskies are scoring 40 plus in the paint like it's normal, what exactly is Villanova supposed to do about it? And more importantly, what happens when UConn's threes also start falling? Let's talk about the paint domination protocol. Let's start with the most uncomfortable truth in the Big East right now. 3-point shooting. It can swing, it can wobble, it can betray you. But the paint is a different currency, and UConn is printing it. Look at the last two games. Against Creighton, a disciplined zone team, UConn put up 36 points in the paint. Then at Marquette, on the road, in a physical environment, UConn escalated to 42 points in the paint. And here's the number that should make Villanova's film session go silent. At Marquette, UConn shot 19 for 25 at the rim. That's 76% at the rim. 76%. That's not just good, that's borderline unfair. So if you're Villanova, you are asking, do we play zone? Do we switch? Do we go physical man? And UConn's answer has been the same. Cool, we'll score at the rim anyway, because the paint domination protocol isn't a play. It's a philosophy. It's a decision. It's UConn saying, we can build a lead without even touching the three-point line. And that's how you break opponents. Before the first heat check three even happens. Transition, rim pressure, high post reads, roll finishing, cutting, and constant punishment. That's the protocol. Now let's bring the receipts. Creighton, February 11th, 2026. Points in the paint, 36. Fast break points, 26. Team FG percent, 57.1%. At Marquette, February 14th, 2026. Points in the paint, 42. Fast break points, 18. At rim FG percent, 76%. 19 for 25. So read that again. When the game got uglier and when the environment got tougher, UConn didn't become a jump shooting team. They became a battering ram. And that's the mark of a championship level identity. Because here's what happens to most teams. They miss a few threes, they tighten up, they start forcing, they start rushing. UConn does the opposite. They simplify. They go to the rim. They go to the body. They go to the glass. And they make you defend the most exhausting part of basketball over and over and over. Let's talk about that Marquette game for a second, because the first half, that was resistance. UConn scored 36 points in the first half. Their lowest half all season. So you're thinking, maybe this is the night. And then the third quarter happens, and UConn doesn't chase the perimeter. They don't panic. They don't go hero ball. They go right back to the protocol. They score 19 of their 42 paint points in that third quarter surge, and the game bends. That's what the protocol does. It doesn't just score. It breaks the defensive will. Villanova has to understand this right now. If you get into a slugfest with UConn, UConn likes it. And if you try to out-discipline UConn defensively, UConn will turn that discipline into a geometry problem you can't solve. Now we get to the engine, Sarah Strong. This is where the entire conversation flips. Because Strong isn't just a forward, she's not just a scorer, she's not just a finisher. She's the tactical pivot. She's the person who turns UConn's half-court offense into a series of pick-your-poison decisions. Let's hit the numbers from the last two games. Feast Creighton, 16 points, 3 assists. At Marquette, 22 points, 3 blocks, 3 steals, 16 points in the paint. And here's the detail that matters. At Marquette, even while under the weather, Strong scored 19 over 22 in the second half. That's not just production, that's control. And the way Gino uses her? It's surgical. In transition, Strong often trails. Ball swings to the wing, and she plants herself at the elbow. Now you have the high-low threat. If Jana El Alfie or Sarah Williams seals inside, it's a quick entry. If the defense fronts, Strong can hit the cutter. If help creeps in, the kick-out three is right there. If nobody commits, Strong can dribble into the lane and finish, so Villanova's undersized front court is going to spend the whole night making wrong decisions. Stay home? Strong cooks you, send help. Now you're giving Fudd and Zabel daylight. And if you overreact to the shooters, Strong is living at the rim. That's the system, that's the protocol, and Strong is the switchboard. Now let's talk about the quiet part of dominance, because when the starters sit, UConn doesn't lose the paint. They reload it. Enter Jana El Alfie. In the last 2 games, versus Creighton, 1 for 2, 5 rebounds, 16 minutes. At Marquette, 2 for 2, 4 points, 16 minutes. That's 100% at the rim at Marquette. And this matters because LLF gives UConn something that doesn't show up in a box score the same way: vertical spacing. She forces the defense to respect the roll. She forces the low man to commit. She creates that half second of hesitation. And that half second is where cutters become layups. So even if Villanova says, okay, we'll survive Strong, cool. Now you're facing waves, Strong and Williams, then LLF, then another set of rim pressure. Villanova doesn't have the front court size to match that for 40 minutes. Here's where the protocol becomes psychological, because attacking the rim doesn't just score, it makes defenders make choices, and most of those choices become fouls. Look at the free throws. Versus Creighton, UConn 8 for 10, 80%. Strong 4 for 4. KK Arnold 3 for 4. At Marquette, UConn 7 for 8, 87.5%. Strong 3 for 4. KK Arnold 4 for 4. So even on a night when the overall shooting dips, UConn still gets points. And those points do something else. They put your front court on a timer. Now for Villanova, this is a real threat. Villanova averages 16.2 personal fouls per game, and their primary interior defender, Dene Carter, averages 3.0 fouls per 40 minutes. If Carter gets too early, now what? Because Villanova's identity is the defense. Their coach has preached defense travels, but defense doesn't travel as well when your best defender is sitting. And that's what the protocol is designed to do. It doesn't just win possessions, it wins minutes. Let's put a bow on the scariest part. In the last 2 games, UConn created a scoring floor that doesn't rely on threes. Against Creighton, paint 36, fast break 26, combined 62 points. At Marquette, paint 42, fast break 18, combined 60 points. So let me translate that. UConn is basically saying we're going to give ourselves 60 before we even talk about perimeter variance. And the transition part, it's not random, it's connected. At Marquette, UConn had 7 blocks. Strong had 3. Blocks become runouts. Misses become sprints. Turnovers become layups. So if Villanova has a sloppy stretch, or if their guards gamble too hard on steals, UConn is going to make them pay in the most painful way, 2 points at a time. It's at full speed. Now, Villanova isn't a pushover. Let's be clear, they are allowing 61.0 points per game strong. They are holding opponents to about .404 shooting effective. They get activity on the perimeter. Jasmine Basco, about 1.8 steals per game. Kennedy Henry, about 2.5 steals per game. Villanova wants to disrupt. They want to pressure. They want to force mistakes. But here's the issue. Their front court is undersized. Their leading rebounder, Bryn McCurry, is 6'1". Their primary post defender, Dene Carter, is 6'0". And when Villanova played Xavier earlier this season, they lost the paint battle 24-20. They got out-rebounded 33-32. If Xavier can win interior moments against Villanova, what do we think happens when UConn walks in with a team that just dropped 42 in the paint at Marquette? Villanova's defense is help-heavy. High IQ, rotations, positioning. But against UConn, help becomes a trap. Because the instant you help on Strong or Williams, that's when the kickouts start. That's when the relocation threes start. That's when the backdoor cuts start. It's a poison pill. You help, you give up threes. You don't help, you give up layups. So the question isn't, can Villanova defend? The question is, can Villanova defend without collapsing? Let's call it. The X factor is Sarah Strong, because everything Villanova does defensively leads directly into the area where Strong is most dangerous. At Marquette, her advanced indicators screamed, run it through her. Usage rate 44.8%, offensive rating 98, defensive rating 79, block percent 12.6%, steal percent 6.5%. That's a two-way fulcrum. And tactically, if Villanova stays glued to shooters, Strong eats in the mid-post. If Villanova sends help, Strong's vision finds the cutter before the double is even real. And if Villanova tries to test the rim, Strong is already loading up blocks that turn into runouts. Tonight's blueprint is pretty clear. If Strong controls the elbow, the paint points will climb. And if the paint points climb, Villanova's defense will start to crack. And once it cracks, that's when the Fudd and Zabel threes become daggers. So prime field, and here's the takeaway going into UConn versus Villanova. On February 19th, 2026, UConn isn't living and dying by the three, and they're living in the paint. They've created a 60-point foundation from paint plus transition. They're shooting 76% at the rim on a real volume. They're generating fouls. They're stacking blocks into fast breaks. And at the center of it all, Sarah Strong is the engine. So here's my question for you. If Villanova sends help on Strong, who gets the biggest night from three? AZ Fudd or Ali Zebel? Drop your pick in the comments. And tell me this too. What's the one defensive adjustment you think Villanova has to try just to survive the first half? If you're ready for tip-off, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, and welcome back to Prime Field.
Prime Field.